So, let me introduce my guest. To my left is Greg Kuticki. He's the field representative or the business agent for all the unions at Lawrence Memorial Hospital. And to my right, we have Stephanie Johnson. She's the president of the LPN Techs, 500 and some strong, and growing all the time. And of course, to her right, Lisa Dombrowski, president of the powerful L&M Nurses Association, 850 people and growing strong. We're making them nurses every day. And to her right, Harry Rodriguez. He's the president of the L&M Healthcare Workers. And all these guys are here in New London, and they represent people that work in New London, and they represent workers, and those workers' jobs are being threatened by L&M Hospital. Now, L&M Hospital is known as a non-profit organization.
That's correct.
And I want to set everybody straight here tonight, anybody that might be listening. There's no such thing as non-profit. Because someplace, somebody is making money. And we'll start with Bruce Cummins, who's knocking down $761,000, followed by the Chief Operating Officer, who's knocking down $485,000, the Chair of Development, $428,000, Vice President, $431,000, Vice President of Strategic Planning, $347,000, Chief Legal Officer, $324,000, Chief Information Officer, $300,000. Vice President, Patient Care, $307,000. Vice President, Physician Practice Management, $287,000. Medical Director, Physician, $269,000. I could go on, and I'll report the names of these people in the near future because it's disgraceful, especially Bruce Cummins, who's knocking down $761,000. And who's he want to lay off? The people most in need. These people are team members because if you haven't been in the hospital, it's a team effort. Not only is a nurse important and a doctor is important, everybody's important now. You people should be ashamed of yourselves. Let's start off with Greg Kuticki. Greg, give us a synopsis of what's going on here and report of what's up to date.
Okay, first of all, we have a lot of things going on here, Murray. First of all, we've got a trial coming up. On October 21st, there'll be a trial in Hartford where the unions are basically alleging that the hospitals created a shell corporation called LMMG, it's Lawrence Memorial Medical Group. And what they're doing is they're taking jobs that are based in the hospital, shifting them out of the hospital to this sham corporation. The National Labor Relations Board, which is in charge of these types of things for labor unions and companies throughout the country, did an exhaustive 6-month investigation. And what they've determined, they've essentially, there's federal charges against the hospital for violating federal labor law. Okay? And just to let you know, their win record at the National Labor Relations Board, this particular region, is over 90%. And the reason for that is if you got to pick the cases you wanted to prosecute, you'd win too. They haven't lost a case in 14 years. Okay, so when they take a case, usually it's a really good case. And that case is probably going to do 5 days. And basically what we're alleging is that they're creating these sham corporations and moving work and services away from the hospital setting into clinics and outpatient services. And what it's doing, it's actually costing a lot of money. The hospital itself is propping up this sham corporation, and they've spent over $20 million, okay, of patient care dollars propping up this company. So it's losing money, it's stripping jobs, and it's not working. And what we're saying is you can't just create a company and say those particular jobs are not covered by the collective bargaining agreement, because as to date, the National Labor Relations Board is supporting our position.
Stephanie Johnson, president of the LPNs. What's the LPN's position, and how do you factor into this?
Well, the hospital is, they're starting layoffs again. We just had 3 members that were either reduced in hours or laid off. The hospital is in a full-blown panic because nobody knows what tomorrow's going to bring. Everybody's nervous. We're in the middle of negotiations, so actually we just started negotiations on Monday, and the atmosphere is just thick with tension. It doesn't feel good to see, like, the majority of the people who got laid off are Harry's people, the lowest paid people, getting taken down when we actually have the finances and we see exactly what the top tier people are making. And it's unfair. It's ridiculous what they're doing to our membership. It's, to me, just a way for them to try to get around the union or to try to dissolve the unions.
And Lisa, you're president of the L&M nurses.
Yes, I am.
You're negotiating your contract at the same time.
Yes, we coalition.
How's that going, and what's the morale and how are the nurses feeling?
So far, we've only had one meeting of negotiations, and the hospital has already put forth that they're not going to want to bargain in good faith. They've already put up a really strong front. They've already, they want to play hardball right out the gate. So the morale around the hospital is pretty dismal. People are angry. They're angry. They feel like their employer doesn't respect them, and I can't say I blame them for feeling that way. And it's going to be a tough fight. We're in for a tough fight.
Yeah.
And Harry, your people are the ones that are affected as we speak?
That's correct.
What's going on with that?
Well, it all started a week before Thanksgiving, back in November, where we had the original 22 people laid off, and they were secretaries. Most of them had an average work life of 15 years at the hospital. And then we moved into the winter months, and we moved into January, and they laid off another 22 people come February. And now we just had 33 more people laid off last week. And
So,
to make matters
Harry,
worse-
excuse me, when they lay these people off, who does the work?
as the work is absorbed by the existing people. They've
We
been
do more
cut
with
down.
less.
People have left the hospital, they've either retired or they moved on, and so they've cut work by attrition. So if the seat is gone, there's nobody there, they just take that work and divide it amongst the employees that are currently working.
What's the motive of the workers, and how do you see things panning out?
Well,
getting worse.
Everybody's angry. Like I said, the average worker there is about 15 years, and people are upset. They've given their life to this place. They've had their children born there. Their parents have died there. Most of them were born at L&M, and they feel like they're not getting paid back properly. They feel like, their own community hospital is no longer a community hospital. You walk into the hospital, they have classes where they teach you, these people that come in here, they're not patients, we need to call them customers, we need to treat them like they're customers. And so, people still have the attitude, no, this is a patient, this is another human being that I need to have compassion for.
They want
And
us to give
so-
customer service. We don't give customer service, we give patient care.
Our
Absolutely.
environmental services people, when they walk into a room, before they leave, they look you in the eye and they say, I have the time. Is there anything else I can do for you? Is there something I can help you with? And it's a sincere thing that comes from their heart that they really want to reach out and do their part because they feel like it's a team, like they're part of patient care. And so now they're talking about outsourcing 186 jobs. We're talking about environmental services. We're talking about the food service workers. Now, there's people in there that have been there as long as 44 years, all the way down to 6 months, and everything in between. Where are these people going to go?
Most of them are city New London residents too. Okay, so that's going to impact the tax base, okay, because the incomes are going to be impacted. Close to 200 jobs going to be impacted by this. What we're going to be doing as a union is bringing this, like you do every week, we're going to bring it to the community. And we're going to be running television commercials where we've got the local politicians, we've sat with all of them, they're in support of this venture. All of the city council, including the mayor, are in support of, everyone realizes what the hospital's doing is wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, if they had a cash flow problem, we'd be the first to step up. I represent Wyndham Hospital. Okay, Wyndham Hospital is a very poor urban setting hospital, okay? When we bargain contracts there, we work with management, we give concessions, because you know what? If you kill the job, nobody works, okay? So depending on the environment and the wealth and the institution that I help workers, it depends on what you ask for, what you can get, what you can keep. This is a very rich hospital. They have over 200 days cash on hand. Bondholders determine that 60 days cash on hand is what's necessary to have a good bond rating. These guys have, 200 days cash on hand. Wyndham Hospital has 5 days cash on, to give you some perspective. This is a wealthy hospital, there's no need for this. You know, the salaries, it's unbelievable.
Greg, of particular interest to me, and I think a lot of you people ought to be interested in this as well. At Lawrence Memorial Hospital, a hospital, by the way, years ago, when you worked for Lawrence Memorial Hospital, automatically you had respect. You had dignity, because that was the place to be. It was a class place, first class, by the way. Lawrence Memorial Hospital, under the tutelage of Mr. Cummings, has a big investment in the Cayman Islands.
Yes, they do.
I was quite surprised.
And I have some,
Explain that to me.
I have some facts here that'll lay bare to that. What you see on your screen now, I think, Mary, okay, is what's called a 990. Up here in the corner it says 990. This is essentially a tax form that nonprofit organizations have to fill out this year. This is the latest 990, okay? And what it basically shows, and by the way, anybody at all can get these forms, and they can be gotten on the internet under guidestar.org. And you just create a username, a password, anybody can go on. This is a public site. So as you can see here, this is the 990, and this is to authenticate it, because this actually is it's like an 80-page document, but just to cover the 2 pages of relevance here. This particular one, when you go to page 2, and this speaks specifically to the dining room. If you look down here, I don't know if you can see it here, this says the dining room over here. It shows that the cafeteria, last year reported, made over $1 million profit. This is under revenue, under the column total revenue. So you want to ask the question, Mary, why would they shut down or subcontract one of the entities within the hospital that actually generates income?
Well, is that a question that you would ask at negotiations? Or is that a question that somebody, is there?
It's a question that I asked, and I can't seem to get an answer because Bruce Cummings doesn't want to talk to us. He refuses to come out and have a conversation with us.
Not at the bargaining table.
He talks through emails. When he has his open forums, it's, you submit your questions beforehand, and he answers the ones that he picks and chooses.
They're scheduled on days that we're off in our
We've never been able to
departments.
sit down with him and have a one-on-one conversation. We did a few years back, but not in recent memory. My question is, and I'll question Bruce if he's watching, is why do you want to lay off 103 people that work in the cafeteria who average 15 years of work in L&M, who generate over $1 million in revenue to the hospital? Why are we laying them off? Why are we thinking about subcontracting that area?
And these people make between $10 and $18 an hour. These are not people that are making exorbitant wages. And by the way, when you bring a subcontractor in, whether it's Sedesco or something like that, they're going to come in, they got to make money. Okay, so the food prices for the patients and the residents, all that will go up, because you know what? That's a profit-making company, and they have to make a profit.
But if you're knocking down $1 million profit,
Why are you getting rid of
as
it?
it is, why are you messing with something that's a winner?
Exactly.
Now, you spoke about the Cayman Islands. Again, this is the same front page, just to authenticate the document. But when you go to the second page here, you'll notice Central America Caribbean investments. They've got over $35 million in the Cayman Islands. Now, obviously, we hit a nerve with Mr. Cummings because he felt it was necessary for him today to come out with a full-page dissertation on why they needed to put money offshore. Now, his excuse, this is what he says, is because they have to establish an insurance company for malpractice. And he says they can't have that in the States because of the regulatory burden. We all know that Connecticut, in particular Hartford, is the insurance capital of the world. Why is he moving money offshore when he could be helping the very state that he's operating in? Okay? Again, they have the money, and the question is, if they're a nonprofit, why are they hiding money, or why are they putting money in the Cayman Islands?
In addition to the $35 million, if I'm reading this right, L&M, a nonprofit organization, with Cummins knocking down $750K, shows
Plus.
a value, plus, of $170 million. Am I reading that
Right.
correctly?
If you look at line 22, it says net assets or fund balance, okay? Their fund balance is almost $170 million. And it's going up from the previous year by some $4 million. This is not a hospital in financial straits like a Johnson that we represent in the middle or upper part of the state, or like I mentioned, Wyndham Hospital. The two richest hospitals, you'd be curious on this, is Bacchus and L&M. Last year, their margins ran somewhere between 6 and 9%, both those hospitals. And the reason why is because they have a high density of private insurers. You think about it. You got Electric Boat, you got Pfizer, you got the casinos. These are private payers. all right? So their mix between Medicaid dollars and private insurers is high. So, basically on, where they sit in the state, and the fact they're near some big employers, that enables them to generate these types of numbers. But they do have the money, okay? And what they're doing is just wrong.
And I'll give you another example. When we negotiated our contract a couple of years back, we changed the insurance. And we put insurance on the table, insurance that we thought was going to save the hospital $1 million a year.
And it did.
And, well, we were mistaken, because it actually saves them $4 million.
Yep.
So now they have $4 million instead of $1 million. So with that $4 million, they can still pay out to LMMG, which used to be LMPA, $22 million. They can pay everybody the money that they want, but when it comes to the workers, they're not doing the right thing. They're laying them off.
I just can't rationalize why, though.
We scratch our heads all the time, right?
It's not
Neither
that
can we.
it's a money issue, it seems to me. Am I missing something?
Well, I'll give you their position, because this is what they'll tell you. They'll say, listen, first of all, because of the financial constraints at the state level, the amount of uncompensated care, that's the amount of money from the state of Connecticut comes to various hospitals to give them money for people who don't have insurance. It was cut by the governor. The reason why he cut it is quite simple. Because of the Affordable Care Act, there's going to be a lot more uninsured people on Medicare, and the other people are going to be mandated to have insurance. Now, we can argue whether that's right or wrong. That's beside the point. The bottom line is the amount of insured people or people covered by Medicaid is going to go drastically up. They don't need the funds from the state. That's your tax money, that's my tax money. The governor said, wait a minute, you're going to be getting the federal funds, Medicaid dollars, and we're requiring everyone to have insurance through the exchanges. So the amount of people without insurance is going to drastically shrink. So there's not a need for that uncompensated care. This is the story they're saying. They're saying, well, we got that cut, and the sequester at the national level trimmed some money for Medicaid dollars. But what they're doing, instead of that's a temporary thing, right? They've permanently laid off people, okay? They permanently impacted the ability of the workers at the hospital to provide the high patient care that the people deserve and expect.
Well, Lisa, you've been uncharacteristically silent here. Who do you negotiate with? And tell us a little bit about how that works.
How it works? Okay. Well, historically, Stephanie's union and my union have negotiated together. So we have our own bargaining teams, which consists of our executive board, elected members of the union. And we negotiate with the hospital, who, it's of course their lawyer, and the panel of folks that they feel would help negotiate. We have the vice president of HR, we have a couple of other HR people, and we have some department managers. So it's a mix, good mix.
And how about you, Lisa? Is it pretty much the same with you as well?
Yes, we sit
and you negotiate
at the table
both you guys
together.
at the same table?
Yes, we
Yes.
do together. Mhm.
And who's on the other side?
The hospital.
And who's the representative from the hospital?
Donna Epps is the Vice President of Human Resources. Gary Cass is a Director in Human Resources. Mary Jane McLaughlin is a Director of Human Resources. Karen DeCruz is what is she now?
She's something of nursing. I actually
Some-
don't know her job
Yeah,
title.
she's got a new
What do you
title.
think their ultimate goal is? What would they like to, what would make a good settlement?
With their pockets lined, that's what their ultimate goal is. I think with the 990 that we showed earlier makes it very clear.
Yeah, but they need more money?
I don't know.
I honestly think they want to dissolve us. I think that they want to disintegrate the union.
What would that achieve, Stephanie?
Then we wouldn't have to worry about having to negotiate the benefits. We don't have a union in our employer. We don't have a union because our employer is so kind and generous. We have a union because our employer wasn't. And what they're going to try to do is get us back to where they could just say, you know what, no raises this year, your benefits are going to cost this. We negotiate wages, hours, and working conditions. We like to have a say in safety. We make it a point to make sure that the hospital understands that we're there to protect this hospital as well as work for this hospital. This hospital is an investment to us as well. If it doesn't work well, we don't work. So I was born at this hospital. I'm probably going to die at this hospital. I live right behind this hospital. I live the street behind the hospital. So I'm very invested in L&M's success. They don't want to share that. They want to be able to just keep it and do what they want.
Is this a new philosophy of L&M? What happened to make that change? Oh, let's take a call. We got a call, and we'll get to that in a minute. And Thank you for calling. Thanks for holding your life.
Thank you for taking my call. I just want to make a few comments. I work at L&M, and one thing that they should look at is just how many chiefs there are. There are departments that all there are directors, managers, no employees. We are so top-heavy, it's not funny. There are directors that have nobody working under them. Managers have nobody working under them. Why is that? There's no need for that. That could save many jobs. Also, my salary's capped. The top management salaries are not capped. Their retirement plans are fantastic. I think that is just absolutely horrible. They have to look at that as well. And I'll get off and listen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Raises really, really good points.
So her point is that administration is top-heavy.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a director of something new every day.
We have a vice president of transformation.
We have a director of the
That's what his
patient
title
care
is.
experience.
So explain to me
Concierge.
what they do. What does transformation mean? What are they transforming? It's like a joke. And you know what? Getting back to she was describing the people that sit at the table, only one of those people live locally. Everybody else lives out of state, out of all those people that she mentioned.
Out of state?
Out
Out of state, yes.
Rhode Island.
The people that are here now,
Can you give me a list of those?
yeah, the people that are here now didn't come from here. They came from somewhere else. So they have no local ties.
None.
There's nobody that can go there and pick up the phone and say, hey, I knew you when you was just a little guy
Cummings
in
is from
school.
upstate New York.
Wet behind the ears, fix this thing. Got nobody to listen to. He doesn't care what happens here. Because you know what? These carpetbaggers, they're only going to be here for a short time. And then they're going to go. They're going to take a job at Yale. They're going to take a job at St. Francis. They're going to take a job in New York. They're going to take a job in Chicago. Wherever the money is, that's where you're going to find them.
They're here to make
when
a
the money
mark.
runs dry here, and they get and they finish raiding and raping L&M, they're just going to move on to something else.
True story.
There's many adjectives that describe responsibility. There's fiduciary responsibility, civic responsibility, moral responsibility. L&M at one time was a leader, and every responsibility, the case that there is and there was, they've lost that. And the fact of the matter, these salaries are killing me here. Who authorizes these salaries?
We were told it was the board of directors. I was told that there was nothing that they could do because the board of directors sets the salary. So I gotta ask, are the board of directors on drugs? Have they been drinking? Because
No, I'm
to set
sure.
these salaries, it's insane what these people are
It's
making.
$4 million. The top 10 salaries make almost $4 million.
Does this include fringe benefits?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. This does not include fringe benefits.
So in addition to the $761,000 Bruce Cummings is
Plus.
getting fringe benefits on that? That is disgusting. Bruce, you be ashamed of yourself.
You put a new addition on his house.
Oh, by the way.
It's as big as his house.
And I want to bring something else up to you, speaking of Bruce Cummings and Lawrence Memorial Hospital. They're expanding. They're building a place in Howard Street. They built the cancer center. They're always doing something. They have no respect for local contractors.
That's right.
The contractors that they hire, most of whom are Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and out of the state of Connecticut. And one thing about Cummings, he's consistent, because that big addition he put down in his house off of Pequot Avenue, he used a lot of town contractors as well. So you got to give the guy one thing, he doesn't waver. Let's take another call, and I'll move on. Thank you for calling. You're live.
I don't know how true it is, but I heard that people that are on the board of directors also work at the hospital, like A to Z and Yankee. I don't know how true that is, but I'd like to know if that is fact. Thank you.
Thanks for the call. Who can feel that?
Well, actually, studying the 990, any ties that any of the contractors have usually appears in the 990. I just got some excerpts. In other words, again, the document's quite thick. But again, if you go on guidestar.org, okay, you can get their 990s all the way back to a couple, 3 or 4 years, and you can see, where they've invested their money, who they invested the money with, and if there's any perceived conflicts of interest, they're supposed to list them in the 990. But let's not forget, this is the same hospital, just purchased a whole other hospital called Rusty Hospital. okay? We had the opportunity when they were doing the hearings in Rhode Island to go and sit in on some of those proceedings. We actually have a PowerPoint presentation that points out, again, when they were there in Westerly, they had to demonstrate how much money they had, how they were financially stable enough to purchase another hospital. They purchased it for some $70 million. They've dedicated as part of this deal to give them $30 million in capital improvements. So they're improving that hospital, they purchased that hospital, they give them 5 years of guaranteed, they're not gonna lay anybody off, right? But yet, who's paying the price? The people here at L&M.
And I might add, and I love L&M. When I was in the hospital, I had a good time in there. I had open heart surgery.
So you had the staff and the state.
They were great to me.
It's because the people that
It
are
was
there,
tremendous.
the people that are there care about their patients.
Yes, they do.
They care about you.
But I'll remind everybody, Lawrence Memorial Hospital and all organizations that claim to be nonprofit are nonprofit for one reason, so they don't have to pay taxes. L&M doesn't pay taxes. in the
Largest
city of New London.
employer of the
Correct.
city of New
And we
London
love the
also.
jobs, we love the people, but the bottom line is, they're double dipping here, especially when they're starting to lay people off. What's the next round of layoffs, Harry, and is there anything that you can do to combat this, or people can do to combat it?
Well, there's always rumors of layoffs. We've always got people that say that they heard this or they heard that. They have not come to us and told us that there were going to be any more layoffs. Cummings did.
They also denied that there were going to be any layoffs.
Correct, correct.
So you know what-
A really good denial. A perfect example is, I was called down to Human Resources, and I was told that there were going to be, a decision was being made to outsource food services and outsource environmental services. And those two departments total 186 people. And then they told me, there's a way that we can get around this thing, and so would you consider reopening the
And when you say
contract?
they, who are we specifically talking about?
Human Resources.
And who runs that?
Donna Epps runs Human Resources.
Okay.
So, we go in there, I went in there by myself with two employees from Human Resources, and so, they talked about concessions, they talked about wages, benefits, salaries, 401Ks, and what really surprised me was 2 days ago, Cummings comes out with an email saying it was just a rumor. And if and when, and this is his quote, if and when it happens, he'll tell us. So if it doesn't come from Bruce, it doesn't happen. So what that tells me then is that when I went into Human Resources, I must have been dreaming, because it didn't happen. I wasn't in a meeting with two representatives of Human Resources. They didn't tell me that they wanted concessions. They didn't tell me that vendors were gonna start coming into the hospital the week of the 16th.
Next week, yep.
Okay? The week of the 16th.
How do you know that?
Because
He imagined it all.
Yeah, just
And we
pretend.
gotta get some truth serum into Cummings as well.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
think so, because he lives in a world that is not reality, okay? I mean, he basically called me a liar, so people in the hospital came up to me today, and they said, Harry, I can't believe the email that he wrote.
We've had doctors say to us, to other members of our e-boards, that's all lies, because we do a tri-local newsletter, the three presidents, we each read an article, and Harry's article was about the Cayman Islands account. And the physicians were saying to us, absolutely not, there's no way, you're lying, you're going to be sued, it's slander. And then he comes out with the email saying, well, actually, indeed, we do have that. So, I don't trust somebody who is saying one thing to somebody, saying something else to everybody else, when we know the truth. And these are physicians that are LMPA doctors or LMMG doctors. One was the past president of ASECT, which is another one of their little shells that they moved into, LMMG. So, who knows what's going on? The more we dig, the more we'll find. And the more we find, the more, to use his word that he used today, nefarious, we find them to be.
The more
What's
we-
the,
the more we're gonna share it.
But
too.
you asked the question, what are we going to do about it? And what we're doing about it, we're going to do a full-fledged public campaign. You notice the stickers that they're all wearing, I am L&M. There's going to be television commercials. We're going to bring this message and this whole situation to the streets, because really, the hospital is a community hospital, and the community is everybody that it serves. So L&M, these are workers. These are workers, and they're also part of L&M community. And we're going to bring that message and expose these people for what they are.
What we need the community to do is to pick up their phones and to say to Bruce Cummings, enough. You know, get your head on straight. There's no reason to lay off 100.
How would you get to him?
Call him on the phone, but you can't get to him. His secretary cuts all his calls off. So, you know, you can, his extension is, I don't even know. his extension.
2200?
Could be.
No, just press 0 and ask
But,
ask
yeah, ask
that.
Deborah to connect you to his extension, and you'll get a secretary, and she'll take a message, and then you'll never hear it back again.
What's the position of the doctors? Are they with you guys, or do they have a?
I've heard
It
some
varies.
doctors are leaving. I've heard that a very well-known doctor is leaving the area because of his dislike for the current administration and said something about he didn't like what they wanted him to do. And I didn't hear it personally, so I don't want to say the doctor's name. But, you know, the doctors, a lot of doctors didn't want to join these groups because they don't want the hospital to have the control over them that they have. They essentially will raid their office and do with them what they will.
So, you know, regardless of what department one is in, the average person wants to go to work, they want to do a good job, they
Yeah.
want to feed their family,
Yes.
they want to go home, they don't want to listen
that
to
simple.
this bullshit, you know? I mean, really, Harry, the next target is the cafeteria workers. How close is that to coming, and what's your game plan?
Well, the 16th is when we were told the vendors are going to start coming in.
To price it up, yeah.
They'll be bidding on the work in the cafeteria, they'll be bidding on the work in environmental services, so it's a two-prong attack. It's not just the cafeteria, it's environmental services as well. You got 103 people in the cafeteria, and you got about 86 people in environmental services. And these are the lowest paid workers in the hospital, and yet they're the most loyal. These people have been sick. Okay, they call me up, they can't sleep at night, they toss and turn, they come to work, they've got black under their eyes, you know, they can't think straight, they're like in a daze because they've been sucker punched, all right? You know, their managers tell them to do such a great job, and then the big boss says, your job has no value because I'm gonna just farm it out. All work has value, all work.
We all
Doesn't
deserve
matter
to
if
help
you're a
the region.
surgeon, if
Absolutely.
you're a nurse, if you're a caregiver, if you're an environmental service person, if you're a phlebotomist, all work has value. What is the difference here? Why are you picking on these people?
And we can't do what we need to do without Harry's people. We can't have that hospital without environmental services. We need the cafeteria workers. to
Infection
feed
rates will go
the
up,
patients.
MRSA will go up.
These are highly skilled workers who have been given courses in infection control. They know how to mix chemicals properly so that MRSA doesn't grow in rooms, VRE is killed. These are viruses that can kill you, okay? And they've got to come in, they've got to make sure these rooms are completely sterilized before the next patient comes in. They do their job, they do it well, they don't complain, they tough it out, and they go to the next one. And let me tell you something, the inpatient rate in the hospital is high, so is the discharge rate, so they're always moving. They're running from
Huge
one floor
turnover.
to the next. And you know, they never complain about their job, they just come in and do a great job. And then to be slapped in the face and told that your job has value, it's disgusting. When you're making $741,000 a year.
And the three of us, injury to one is injury to all. It could be Harry today, it could be us tomorrow, it could be Lisa the next day. So we're all together, we're standing together to fight for Harry's people.
Absolutely.
Take a call. Thank you for calling in live.
Hi, Murray. Excellent show tonight. I have a question for your panel. It was in the paper that the hospital corporation has $200 million in unrestricted investments, and they're laying off people?
That's
I
correct.
don't get it.
We don't need
You
that.
can respond, and I'll hang up. Thank you.
And I can tell you, that's the most beautiful woman in Atlantic, Connecticut. She reads the paper every day. $200 million.
Yep.
And they want to lay off.
200 days cash on hand actually means that the hospital could
Could you
function.
bring this up on the
Yeah.
screen, please?
It could actually means the hospital could function for 200 days, not take any money in, and maintain the level of services. Now, what, again, to repeat myself, what is considered healthy is just having 60 days cash on hand.
So they have
These
over
people have
3 times the
three
amount.
times the amount, okay, that's required. And when they did this presentation in Westerly, they were basically bragging about how much money they had. So when you just touch on the L&M parts.
And by the way, Greg,
Yep.
just so that the public will know, this is not a union presentation.
No.
This is a
This is the
presentation
actual hospital's
put on
presentation.
by the hospital
to the state of
Rhode
Rhode Island.
Department of Health.
Right. He says operating margins and excess margin. They don't only have an operating margin, which was necessary to operate, they have an excess margin, okay? These people have money. What's interesting is when you look at this. This is, the red indicates excess margin every year. Note there's a drop in the 2012. Why? Because of the $20 million they had to spend on this LMMG, which is really, and that's what it says. The decline is primarily due to the operations of, at the time they were called LMPA. They've now since changed their name. They got a new name every week. And that's, again, that shell corporation that they've got going here with the National Labor Relations Board is going to get set to prosecute them next month. So these are some of the debt ratio. I mean, some of these numbers will make your eyes burn, but the point is, this is their presentation demonstrating how much money that they have, okay? And there it is. There's the approximately $22 million has been transferred from the obligated group to LMPA, or what it's known now as LMMG.
Now, this LMPA group is the group that's responsible for the layoffs, because they've taken work out of the hospital. They closed the OBGYN clinic. They
Shifted it
closed
over.
the mental health clinic.
Shifted it over.
And shifted over to LMPA. So, did they really close it? No, they moved it out of the hospital into a private practice. So now, the OBGYN clinic is no longer in the hospital.
And what do they achieve by doing that here?
They lost $22 million.
That's basically.
They lost $22 million.
They're trying to build their business, and they're building the business on the back of the current workose at L&M.
They're also
So
not
they're taking
thinking-
work out of the hospital, bringing it into private practice. You no longer have it in-house, so now you can lay off people. Okay, you're going to save money there, and then you're going to move the business into private practice, and you're going to try to build that business up.
They're also not thinking about continuity of care for the patients. So we all see them walking into Pond House every single day, patients going for their mental health care providers. Well, now these offices are going to be moved all over the area. They're not going to be in the same practice every single day. So say I'm a psych patient and I need to go get my medication checked. Well, today is Monday and my appointment's in Stonington, in their office in Stonington. How am I going to get there? I have difficulty making it to the hospital and it's on the bus line. How am I going to get there? How are our patients going to get taken care of? These are the sickest of the sick patients that we need to make sure have the healthcare management that we're supposed to be giving as a community hospital. And now it's up in smoke. We have no idea what they're going to be able to do.
Thank you for calling your live.
Hi, Murray. How you doing?
Good.
I just want to praise you guys. Do a great job at L&M. The number of times I've been there, I can't say enough for the service. And I hope you guys keep your attitude and continue that, because the last thing you want to do with this campaign that you're talking about, Greg, is go out to the public and scare them away from coming to L&M. Because you know, like with any other business, if people don't come to L&M for their services, the next thing is going to be is another phase of layoff because the revenue's not there. So you really need to be, I don't know what the plan is, but you really need to be careful about your ads that's coming up. For Mr. Rodriguez, this fictional meeting you referred to that Bruce Cummings says, you had with HR, they're bringing in vendors. Have they led you to believe that they're going to totally replace your people, or would they be offering your people positions with these vendors, like Pfizer has done when they brought in contractors, EB has done that, even Mitchell College. And your group is not the first to be outsourced at L&M. The emergency room physicians is an outsourced company. Anybody that receives an ER bill from L&M receives a hospital bill, and they receive an ER physician bill because the ER physicians is outsourced.
Well,
I'll hang up and let you answer that question regarding the vendor. Thank you very much, guys.
Okay.
Thanks for the call.
Well, the reason why they outsource the ER is because they have difficulty getting ER doctors. And that's a unique situation for that type of work. Sure, they'll offer the jobs. The job will go from $15 an hour down to minimum wage with no benefits, okay, no pension, and none of the contract protections that currently exist.
Well, Greg, are you guys overpaid?
No.
No, to make a living wage in New London County, that means if you want to own a home, You want to own a two-bedroom home in New London County. And the reason I know this is because when we were in negotiations, we looked into it and found out what you need to make a living wage, okay? A living wage in New London County is $22 an hour.
And that was some years ago.
Right, and that was 3.5 years ago. So you need $22 an hour in order to sustain a two-bedroom home, 2 kids, a car.
I don't think you can do it for that.
I don't think you can.
Okay? My people average between $10 an hour,
Yeah.
as high as $20 an hour.
Yeah.
There is one job in particular that's a little bit higher, and they get about $22 an hour. So here we are. I want to get back to your point. There was another outsourcing that was done with the shuttle bus drivers. Shuttle bus drivers are now run by Ballet of America. They turned around and offered our people work. And at the time, they offered them $8.75 an hour because that was minimum wage. They were making $15 an hour. How do you go from making $15 an hour to $8.75 an hour and live at the same level that you're living now? You can't do it.
Also-
So you have no choice but to either go onto public assistance, which is welfare, and then get your medical coverage from the state.
Also, to that point, you have to take a look at other hospitals and other people doing similar jobs that we're doing. And we fit right in the range. Every time when we look at negotiations and we go through a negotiating year, obviously Harry went through one recently and we're currently going through one now, both Stephanie and I. We look at all the other hospitals in the area and in the financial group, and we fit right in with them. So it's not like we're these greedy hospital workers that are making so much more money than anyone else.
Actually, we're not even really talking about money. What we're talking about right now is saving the community hospital. We want to keep the community in the community hospital. And that means we want you guys to be able to have access to services. We want to make sure that our community of workers is allowed to stay in there as well.
We want to be able to care for New London.
He mentioned something important. He talked about making sure that this campaign
Right.
doesn't
So
injure the
I want to
hospital.
address that.
Go ahead.
And so I want to address your issue about the campaign. Okay, so how would it benefit our group of people if we went on television, filmed commercials, bad-mouthing the hospital? Wouldn't go anywhere. It wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't be a job to go back to because you're absolutely right. People would say, gee, it's a zoo over there. Let me go to Bacchus. Let me go to Westerly. Let me drive down to Yale. The purpose of the community campaign is so that you can identify the workers that work at Lawrence Memorial. And you can say, you know what, I know that individual. They go to my church. Oh, I've seen that person at my grocery store. They shop there every week. You know, they're part of the club that I belong to. They go to the VFW, the American Legion. Or you know what, that person has 2 kids in school with my kids. So now you put an identity to the individual. And that will hopefully cause you then to pick up your phone, call L&M, and say, hey, Bruce Cummings, what are you doing? These are my neighbors. These are people that I see every day. Don't put them out of work.
The reputation of the hospital is built on the backs of the workers. We are the ones who do the work. Our work will continue to be as stellar as it has always been throughout this negotiations and any others that come up. We never sacrifice patient care just to get our point across. If you see us wearing a button, that is the most that you will see as a patient. If you come into the hospital, we would never do anything to ever alter what kind of care you're going to receive.
Speak to that button you got on.
I'm wearing this button here to support the guards who are actually organizing, and they go to election next week, correct?
Yep.
And then this is the L&M campaign. We're peaceful. We're not trying to tell people don't go to the hospital. That's not our goal. We're not here to badmouth the hospital or its services. What we're trying to do is make sure that there's a continuity of care and there's a continuity of employment. That is what we are responsible for as presidents of the unions.
At the same time, exposing the inequity between senior management and the rest of the group at the hospital.
Well,
Because you don't live in reality.
You're very well spoken and very eloquent. I find it difficult to contain my composure when I know that L&M Hospital is paying people to live in Rhode Island and farther these huge sums of money. They come in, grab the dough, and they head back on 95 and spend its time. I want my hometown people. I want jobs for our people in all these communities and all surrounding communities. And to the point about privatizing or subsidizing, what's that word? Subcontract. New London went through with the water department. They farmed out the water department. The exact same people are doing the work. The contractor is making a fortune, and the consumer is spending more money. Doesn't make any sense. If it's working, let it work, Bruce Cummins. And I'll call, we got 2 minutes left, we're gonna get another call. I'll call the board of directors, all you people, some of whom I know, step up to the plate and put this guy in his place for $761,000. You should be ashamed of yourselves. That's recording live.
Hi, guys. How you doing again? I had to call back because I'm continuing to watch the show, and I kind of resent a little bit that you implied that I said you were going to badmouth the hospital. All I said was you guys need to be careful in your campaign. And if you're twisting my words, what I called in on a show, I can imagine the problems you're having when it goes to negotiations. I never said you were going to badmouth. All I said, be careful, because you can't afford in today's times, as any other customer-oriented business, for people to feel that they're not going to get the kind of service by what you just need to be strategic. I like your idea that you mentioned about relating to the people. That sounds like an excellent campaign, but don't tell me that I said you were going to badmouth the hospital. I really don't appreciate that.
I don't think he said that. I think it's my remarks that you're interpreting.
Right, you sound very upset, and we wouldn't, that's not our plan, nor is it our plan to twist your words. We just want to,
We wanted to let you know that we agree with you.
we want to add to what you said, and we want to agree, and so you're making a valid point by saying that is not our plan, in case someone else misheard you, but we weren't accusing
We have 2 minutes left. Is there any point that we missed?
One other thing that I'd like to bring up, the Connecticut NAACP actually did a study of all the hospitals in the state of Connecticut and found that they are all woefully underemployed with blacks and Latinos. So Lawrence Memorial Hospital also falls in it. I am the president of 230 some odd people, and there are 8 African Americans in my local. I believe Lisa has about the same amount. The largest concentration of African Americans that we do have are in the 2 departments that they're looking to outsource. So Lawrence Memorial needs to pay attention on more than one level on what they're doing. What they're doing isn't right.
Greg, what's the next move?
The next move is to hopefully bargain a good, successful contract, pursue the case at the National Relations Board, and stop the subcontracting.
Folks, we're almost out of time, and I want to thank everybody for coming on the show. You're welcome anytime, and I think you have community support, and I'll throw the moral, social, and civic responsibility back to those people in power at the L&M Hospital on the management level. You people need to look in the mirror, and I don't think you're going to like what you see. Laying these people off makes absolutely no sense, and you should be ashamed. Maury, reporting from the city in turmoil, but a great city, New London.